Hello there, my name is Shawn Watley. Welcome to the podcast. I am a physician, and I bet you're wondering why on earth a physician would go through all the bother of creating a political podcast. Isn't that somehow way outside my wheelhouse? Well, in a way it is, for sure, but let me take you on the journey of why I got to this spot of focusing so much on politics and why I think it's essential, not just for healthcare, but for Canadians and more broadly, all of us in the Western world. So shortly after I graduated in the year 2000, I started full-time work in emergency medicine. The leadership position became open and nobody wanted to do the job. So I ended up being medical director and chief. And while in that role, I was able to make some fairly major changes to how patients were processed. Now, to be clear, it wasn't just me. It was with a team of energetic people. And actually, out of that experience, we ended up being acknowledged by the provincial minister of health at the time, and I was able to write a short book about the experience. It's called No More Lethal Waits, 10 Steps to Transform Canada's Emergency Departments. Now, the last chapter in that book said, get political. And I didn't really realize fully at the time how incredibly essential that last step is. Everything that we try to do for patients is actually shaped and formed and oftentimes blocked by the political system in which we operate. Now, over the years, since I've written that book and since my time in emergency medicine, I've been involved more heavily in medical politics. I'm currently a policy fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute, and I've had a chance to write a second book. And that second book is called When Politics Comes Before Patients, Why and How Canadian Medicare is Failing. And it's a long look with a ton of references and stories and headlines and arguments about how patient care takes a back seat to political ideas, especially in the Canadian context. But I would argue that's the same thing is happening in the United States and in Britain and in European countries as well. So if we want to improve the care people receive, patients need, then we need to get heavily into the political ideas that shape the systems in which patients receive care. So although my deep desire is to improve patient care, I think our main focus needs to be on improving our political thinking. Now, when you actually start studying political thinking, you realize that at least since World War II, the Western world has focused or run on the operating system known as political liberalism or philosophical liberalism. And there are many good things about that way of thinking. It's a very thin political philosophy. But I think we've come to an era when we need something more. And one of the ideas that really doesn't get talked about very much at all is known as philosophical conservatism. Now, we hear the word conservative all the time, but most conservative parties are actually philosophically liberal parties. Now, we're going to unpack these words: liberalism, liberal, conservative, libertarianism. There's tons of definitions, and a lot of the definitions aren't even that great, to be honest with you. But what I've realized over the last 2.5 decades of trying to learn more about this is that conservatism itself offers a different way of thinking about politics. It's a different operating system, if you will. And it's fascinating, and it's deep, and it's broad. And most of us, including myself, really don't know anything about it. So that's why I've gone to the trouble of creating this. I think this is something we desperately need right now. One of my heroes, Roger Scruton, said that conservatism is a work of rescue. And I think more than ever, Canada and the West more broadly needs to undergo a work of rescue where we remember ideas and put language to things that help protect what we love and help pass on the things that we cherish and the way of life that we think is good and good for humans in general to our kids and to our grandkids. So that's what this podcast is about. I really appreciate you checking it out. If you could tell me what you want to hear on this podcast, it would really encourage me and help me focus on the issues that you think are important. So once again, thanks for stopping by. I hope this makes sense, and I look forward to talking to you soon.